There are 37,000 American flags planted in the Boston Common today in honor of American soldiers from Massachusetts who gave up their lives to defend this country. The sight of all those 37,000 flags up and over the hills is sobering. I see it from my front window. Each represents a precious life, an infant born who suckled milk, a toddler who took first steps, a grammar school child who cried when hurt and played tag with friends and sang an alphabet song in his or her birth language, English or Spanish or Arabic or Cambodian. Each soldier made a decision to represent us, the United States, in uniform. They could not waffle about which side they were on, to whom they swore allegiance. The prophet Elijah wants the Israelite people to be as clear. To whom are they supremely loyal and who has authority in their lives? So he demands, which God do you worship? Is it Yahweh, the God of the Jews, or Baal, the Phoenician god of rain brought to Israel by Queen Jezebel? But when Elijah asks, who do you choose? The people say nothing. They didn't want to make a choice. We understand, don't we? Choosing wisely takes time and energy. When Bob and I sold the Newton house in which we had lived for 25 years, we agreed with our real estate broker that we would gather in our kitchen about dinner time on the night when we hoped to be receiving competing bids. We'd all be in one place then to make the decision-making easier, and I'd order some takeout food. But what did the broker want to eat? Oh, whatever, she kept saying. Anything, really, I don't care. You must care, I blurted out. Joy, the broker explained. I don't want to make that particular decision tonight. I want you to pick the menu. When I know I'm going to have lots of big decisions to make in an evening, I try to save my mental energy for the important ones. And it's true, isn't it? We all have experienced decision fatigue. We can't grapple thoroughly with every issue that presents itself. But in marriage, and in worship, and in war, says Elijah, we must pick just one who will get our allegiance. We only can dedicate ourselves to one spouse at a time, one country at a time, one supreme God at a time. No open marriages, shouts Elijah, in an analogy often used by the prophets. Don't flirt with other gods, sleep with them, or the marriage with Yahweh will be over. It's akin to treason. How long will you go limping with two different opinions, Elijah asks. If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him. The people did not answer Elijah a word. Perhaps they don't want to choose or don't know how to. So Elijah tries to give the people a way to decide. He and the priests of Baal both will call upon their respective gods, and the people will judge between the two based on which God performs, which God can bring down fire onto the unlit altar. The 450 priests of Baal go first, but 3 hours pass and nothing happens. Oh, maybe he's taking a nap, says Elijah. The priests of Baal double down, dancing wildly, raving, spearing themselves, drawing blood to show their willingness to die for Baal. But Baal is silent, an idol made by their own hands with no life in it. When Elijah's turn comes, he takes 12 stones and carefully builds a new altar, recalling all those stone altars the Hebrew forebears have built in the past. Places where they had experienced God's presence and marked the location, raising large stones or altars so that everyone could remember. In Genesis, we hear that Abraham and Sarah marked spots along their way to the promised land, trusting that new and meaningful life still could lie ahead for them despite their advanced age. New life. Abraham's grandson, Jacob, a deceitful ne'er-do-well, marks with a stone the place where he experiences God and gets new hope. It's at a time when he's fleeing the promised land. He has stolen his older brother's birthright. But in a dream, Jacob sees a ladder up to heaven with angels going up and down. Maybe, despite all Jacob's lies and failures, God still would come down to Jacob. Maybe Jacob still could climb to greater heights. An altar at that spot helped the people remember that even their past did not doom them. And then Jacob's 12 sons, jealous of their father's favorite. Remember Joseph with the multicolored coat? Even that powerful sibling jealousy in time is reconciled. So in all the places where the people remembered God's forgiveness, the second chances they'd received, they'd erected stone altars. Elijah takes 12 new stones representing those 12 tribes and builds his altar. They are tribes whom God has forgiven and reconciled and renewed time and time again. Elijah calls to Yahweh in the name of all those ancestors with whom God had a covenant. Please, won't he forgive his people their infidelity, their worship of Baal, and renew the covenant again? And immediately fire falls from heaven upon Elijah's altar, burning everything, even the stones, in an all-consuming fire. Okay, now, says Elijah to the people, which God do you choose? Not surprisingly, the people's voices are as loud as the fiery pyrotechnics had been. Surely Yahweh is our God. And then, in the flush of his success, in the next sentence, after Dean finished, Elijah has the people massacre all 450 of Baal's prophets. Wait, that little tidbit about the 450 opponents being massacred is omitted from the lectionary reading. But in 2016, we can't let it slip by. We need to know, does choosing one God to worship authorize us or require us to slaughter people who worship a God known by a different name? That sounds like ISIS. It sounds like arguments that brutal dictators, emperors, and kings in the past have used to justify killing their opponents in the name of their particular God. Caesar Augustus made a god in Rome. The King of England, said to be anointed by God, the true defender of the faith. Emperor Hirohito of Japan during World War II, a living God, he told his people. And Yahweh, our God? Yes, according to Elijah. It justifies the killing. I say Elijah got it wrong, but it takes several more chapters in the Bible before Elijah learns which decision is the one he needs to focus on, to save his energy for, to devote himself to. I don't think it's the choice for God X or God Y. It's the choice between the moral values, the very way of life that God X or Y embodies and stands for. So when Elijah says he chooses Yahweh, but then slaughters his enemies, Elijah abandons the long history that he himself has named the God who again and again and again showed the ancestors the value of mercy and forgiveness, the possibility of new life after past mistakes when we think our life is done. It never even occurs to Elijah that the prophets of Baal deserve another chance. It was Elijah the man who wanted the priests of Baal slaughtered, not God. Elijah, flush with his triumph, one prophet against 450, wanted to nail down the victory by wiping out his competition. Yahweh didn't demand it, because killing only begets killing. And in fact, that's what just happens. Travel on a few more sentences and we find that Elijah's supposed security lasts only one day. When Queen Jezebel hears that her 450 priests are dead, she orders Elijah killed in retaliation. He flees in terror. Now he only wants to die himself. God, I cannot win. No matter what I do, it's never good enough. I alone have been zealous for you, and it's all for naught. Elijah journeys out into the wilderness for a very long time, to a dark cave on a mountainside where God finds him. Why are you here, Elijah? God asks. God, I have done everything I can. All your other prophets have been killed. Now they want to kill me too. Your people still forsake you. And God says, come out of that cave. God will show God's self to Elijah there at the edge of the cave. Elijah has been trying to do as God intends, but Elijah has missed the mark. I will show you who I really am, God is saying. And in one of the most beautiful and mysterious passages in the Old Testament, a huge wind rushes past Elijah on the mountain with the force of a hurricane splitting rocks. But God is not in the powerful wind. An earthquake rocks the mountain, but God is not in the powerful earthquake. Scorching flames pass Elijah, but God is not in the powerful flames this time. And then a small, soft, murmuring sound is heard, a still voice. And when Elijah hears this soft murmur, he goes to stand at the edge of the cave, and God says again, Elijah, why are you here hiding in this dark cave? Go back the way you came, retrace your steps, rethink what you have done and where you have been. Learn to know me, the real me. Friends, I wonder if this could be the important meaning for us today. God may manifest in astonishing displays of power, the kind we all love to see. However, it seems that those take place when the result will be reconciliation and healing and rebirth, not destruction. That explains the pyrotechnics and the joust with Baal, and in a way that almost awesome distance healing from our New Testament reading. It was about a Roman slave who was cured. The reality at the center of the universe animating all life is always working for reconciliation, our deepest healing, not our destruction by mighty powers. And it always encompasses all peoples within that healing, whether a Roman soldier, a slave, a deceitful Jacob, a tired Abraham, a confused Elijah, or even a worshiper of Baal. We're all worthy of new and meaningful life lived in that deep peace, hearing the still, small voice. So Elijah returns, and this time when he meets King Ahab and Queen Jezebel for the final time, Ahab has wanted a plot of land adjoining his palace. Jezebel has conceived a way for him to get it because he is the powerful king and should be able to. She falsely accuses the real landowner, and the real landowner is stoned to death. So Elijah confronts Ahab, saying God will now kill Ahab because the king has engorged his own wealth rather than protecting the needs of the people and the poor, the true duty of a king under Yahweh. And Ahab grieves, knowing he's done wrong, and he repents, and God lets Ahab live. Oh, Elijah, see my ways, God is saying. The real choice between Yahweh and Baal was the choice of how to live. Under the moral code of Yahweh, a king must treat others fairly and provide for the poor. But under the moral code of Baal, Queen Jezebel could kill an innocent man just to secure his land. Those with the greatest power win. But God's great power is for reconciliation. And it can be found in a still small voice that offers us this rebirth. Retrace your steps, all of you, in your lives. Learn from your past. Go back and speak again for justice and mercy and reconciliation. Speak to power for those whose rights are trampled, and perhaps even your enemies can change as Ahab did. When choosing, look for justice and mercy and reconciliation and peace. That's the side we choose. This week, President Obama stood in front of another large stone structure that had been erected so that all the world can remember what happened at Hiroshima 71 years ago. The president wanted to remember that 140,000 people and an entire city were completely destroyed by another mighty flash of fire that fell from a cloudless blue sky. And at that place of memory, our American president said that all of us, we and our former enemies, have a shared responsibility to retrace our steps, to look directly into the eye of history and ask, what we must do differently to curb such suffering again. We haven't done well enough on this yet. Our technical ability to slaughter our enemies has outstripped our moral ability to constrain the use of nuclear warfare in the future. In the President's words, the scientific revolution that led to the splitting of an atom requires a moral revolution as well. On this Memorial Day, we have a choice about the direction of our country. Any government and any leader has limited time and energy to thoroughly grapple with all the ill of this troubled world. But we can choose where we will put our greatest energy, which we will consider to be the most vital decisions. Will America spend more time seeking peace than rattling sabers, more energy negotiating limits on nuclear arms than on initiating new wars? We have to choose. Otherwise, we will be limping along. On this Memorial Day, I hope we choose the deepest values for which our soldiers have fought. The President said at Hiroshima, "My own nation's story began with the simple words, 'All men are created equal and endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.' Realizing that ideal has never been easy, even within our own borders, even among our own citizens. But staying true to that story is worth the effort. It's an ideal to be strived for, an ideal that extends across continents and oceans, the irreducible notion that we are part of a single human family. That is the story we must all tell." Today, a still small voice asks each of us, why are you here in this dark cave where the precious earth could be destroyed with the push of a button? You, America, why are you here? What do you stand for that you ask soldiers to die for? You, each of us in these pews, what do we stand for? May it be justice and peace and equality. Amen.